Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 96 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So guys and girls, welcome to episode 96 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Been getting some, lots of good feedback on all the episodes so far, so okay, keep on coming. And today's episode, I've actually moved it up for you because I really want to get this interview out. Before we get into this, lots going to be happening on the Revive Yourself shop soon. We'll be getting, we've got some good episodes coming on. We'll be getting some red light therapy devices on there soon as well. Going to be adding a few more things to the shop as well, in terms of different products and supplements, things that I think you'll really benefit from. And we want to get that link with Ancient Purity up soon too. But lots of things there. If you green drinks, probiotics, milk thistle for your liver, all different teas that we've got there, and Restore from the Finchley Clinic. That's a phenomenal product. So if you're looking for any of your products, www.reviveyourself.co, go into the shop, they're all there. And lots of articles on the Revive Yourself site. Let's have a look through all the headings that we've got. Just put in the search bar and have a little look for what you need. And if you are struggling with a health issue and you want some one-to-one support, then the quickest way to go about that is to give me an email at ryan@reviveyourself.co. Now, having said that, I know it's a new year and people always want to make new year, new me, etc. And that's fine. I'm not against that at all. What I'd say is make yourself some goals that are realistic. People grossly overestimate what they can do in a week, and they massively underestimate what they can do in a year. Don't, if you've made goals for yourself and then you have a little slip up, just throw the baby out of the bathwater. Not saying this, all or nothing approaches never work long term, because ultimately human. There's going to be things where you may not be able to diet or work out, or you may be somewhere where things just aren't. It's just not the optimal choice isn't available, and so you have to adapt. And so that's absolutely fine. It's not what you do every now and again that's the problem. It's what you do all the time that's the big issue. So just put your values down. Have a little write about it. I said this to my actual clients this week. Little task to them, and that was put your values down. What are the things that you'd love to achieve this year, and especially in the next 2 to 3 months? How do you want to feel? How do you want to look? How's your body want to feel? What sort of shape do you want to be in? What sort of company do you want to keep? How do you want your relationships, both romantic and obviously friendships, and your job, I suppose, relationships you've got at your work. Also, what about your work? Is it the job you want to be doing? Do you want to see yourself somewhere else? Can you start putting things in place for that? And what values have you got? If you can't see yourself having any goals and what you want to achieve and where you want to be, then the other way to look at it is, what's your nightmare? What don't you want to look like? What don't you want to feel like? What would be your worst nightmare if you had to get out of bed every morning and face it? How you look, how you feel, your friends, your family, your job, just your life in general. And when you know what that looks like, then do everything you can to avoid it. So that's a little thing for today, guys and girls. Your values. What are your values? How do you want to live? And how do you want this year and ultimately the rest of your life to be? It's very important. Once you get your values, if you don't have a dream, you can easily be stuck in your nightmare. But once you've got a dream, there's no need for a nightmare, so you can move forward. Okay. So that said, this week's episode, someone that I've been wanting to get on the show for about, it's probably just under a year, maybe about 8 months. Someone I've pestered and pestered and pestered. He's been a very, very busy man, and I eventually got him. So don't worry, guys. If someone's not available, I will keep on trying. And that man is Matt Embry. I saw his film around about, I suppose it must have been at the same time, about 8 months ago, on, I think it was iTunes or maybe Netflix. It's called Living Proof. If you haven't watched it, look it up, go and watch it, please. Now, Matt was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when he was 19, and this his film documents the journey that he went through to not having a symptom in 22 years. Even though he got diagnosed when he was 19, he hasn't had a symptom in 22 years. And that's from the diet and the lifestyle that he leads and the amount of research that him and his father did. And it's quite remarkable. You know, I've had family, or very, very close family friends that have had their life devastated by multiple sclerosis. And all they were given was the medical drugs and medical industry. And his film goes into the amount of money that the charities get and how much they spend and where it goes, which is very, very shocking. The amount of money, especially when it comes to about £100,000 spent or $100,000 spent on nutrition. You know, it's in the hundreds of millions what they've got. It's ridiculous. And goes into the research he's done. He's gone and spoke around America with his father, and it's amazing how the MS Society just doesn't want to know. And he's got some really good interviews with top quality doctors, especially Dr. Ebers, who's the top neurologist in the world. He says about the pharmaceutical drugs. In fact, I'll leave that for the interview, and I'll leave that discussion for the interview. So, without further ado, here is Matt Embry from the film Living Proof, and also from the website mshope.com, where he's got lots of free information for anyone suffering with MS. So here he is. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. You said you're in a mountain time. Whereabouts actually are you?
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, which is just outside the mountains.
Right, perfect. That's was it Calgary the Jamaican bobsled? Was they in Calgary then? Do you know Cool Run?
That's right, you got it.
Yeah, it looks like it's very.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like it's cold. Is it cold?
Yeah, it's pretty cold, but it's been cold for a while, so just get used to it, right?
Yeah, we one of my so as I said before, I had a wedding in Canada this year. It was in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
Nowhere. It was pretty warm when we were out there, but they tell me it gets to like minus 50.
Yeah, it can get pretty cold, yeah.
And that's it sounds unbearable.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a huge fan, but
yeah, fair enough.
It's here, so
yeah, cool. So we tried to get you. I've been pestering you for the last 6 months to try and get you on. So it's nice to finally have you here.
Oh, no worries. I apologize if I was. We was pretty busy there for a bit, so I kind of lost track of some emails and messages and stuff. So
no, I completely understand. I keep on. Persistence is key in this game because you've got a fascinating story, and I really want our audience in the UK. In fact, we've got people in America, all over Canada as well. One of the guys I've had on interview as well, Jason Christoph's out in Canada. He's got a huge audience of like 250,000 as well. We're going to get it out to. So it's really great to have you on because I want people to understand. So we're going to go into the film and we're going to MS Hope, etc. But just for people out there, Matt, first of all, what is multiple sclerosis, and what was your journey into this? Because you didn't have it from that when you had it about at 19. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, so multiple sclerosis is a debilitating neurological condition where the body slowly breaks down. People start losing, say, motor function, and ultimately, I guess, respiratory paralysis and death occurs. But it's a long process for the body to break down. I mean, between 30 and 35 years. Normally, I mean, there is a small percentage who get really debilitated really quickly, but for the majority of people, it's a very long and slow, what we've been told, steady downhill decline. Many people have been told this, and I was diagnosed at 19 years old, which is now over 23 years ago, and I'm currently symptom-free.
Perfect. And so for most people, I mean, everyone is different, right? So everyone's constitution is different, etc. But for people, so you say 23 years ago you got diagnosed.
Yeah.
So for people generally into 23 years of diagnosis, where would they normally be right now?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, that's not a good situation, right? I mean, the probably the most awful term I've heard a neurologist describe it is the time from cane bed dead. So the question is cane bed dead. So how long it takes to get to a cane, how long it takes to get to a wheelchair, how long it takes to get to a bed, and then ultimately death. I just recently on my Facebook made a call out, and I've got thousands of followers all over the world, and I said, if there anyone who has had multiple sclerosis for 23 years or more, who did the traditional path that is symptom free, anyone, and I haven't had one one person write and say, yeah, I'm good after 23 years. Right? Taking the traditional path.
Yeah, so for people out there, because I've got it hits quite close to home. My family have very close friends that people had MS who ruined their life. Obviously, it ruined not just the person who had its life, it also ruined the family's life because there's not much you can do, and they was wheelchair bound for years and years and years before death. So it's awesome to have you on there, and it means it's the same as we say to any same we say to most of our guests. The way you heal anything is the way you heal everything, with a few subtle changes, and it seems to be diet and lifestyle are always the major factors. Now, just for people, that we'll go into that, but just for people out there, what is a traditional approach to someone who has MS? What would be the traditional, conventional approach from the medical industry?
I can't speak to exactly what it is now because, to be honest, I don't even go to a neurologist. So the traditional path that I was exposed to would be you'd go, you get your MRI, which is they're checking to see what your brain and spine are like, how many lesions, and then there's a recommendation of a number of multiple sclerosis drugs that are out there right now, pharmaceuticals, which claim to slow which actually claim to reduce the number of relapses you have, and to, I believe, reduce the magnitude of the relapses. But again, I am not too sure exactly what their claims are right now with the current drugs out there.
So it's literally just drugs. That's all they can give you.
Yeah, and then it would be either injectable drugs, that was going on for a long period of time. I think it still is today, or oral medication, or now they're doing infusions every couple of years,
right?
Every few months. So like that is the traditional path. Years ago they recommended not even to exercise. They advised against it for a certain period of time.
It's amazing. Your clip that you've got on your page, actually, if everyone's not following, MS Hope, go and follow that, and also Matt Embry. I think you've actually got, you can follow Matt. I think you might have too many friends at the moment, but you've got a clip there with Dr. Ebers, he's a renowned neurologist. He's studied over, I think, 35,000 different papers, multiple sclerosis researcher. And he said there's no evidence that any MS drug will ever have an effect on the long-term progression of MS.
Yes.
So why would you ever take one?
Yeah, and I'm thankful that you've picked up on that. I've done so many interviews, and I think you're the first person who's talked about what Dr. Ebers, the prestigious Dr. Ebers, had to say about this. It's amazing, actually, that we've got this expert in the film. So I appreciate you actually talking about it, because he is one of the top neurologists in the world. When it comes to multiple sclerosis, over 35,000 citations, was the head of Oxford for 17 years, and more or less comes out and says there's no evidence that these drugs have an effect on the long-term progression. And when we ask him, would you take any of the drugs? He says no.
He says no, and he also says I take my risk with the disease.
Yeah.
And the clip after it is you just reeling off the amount of side effects of these drugs.
Yeah, and the thing, so those are all the side effects. Which how many of those side effects are symptoms that are described as multiple sclerosis symptoms? And I just posted last night on my Facebook this class action lawsuit you can be part of for the gadolinium that they put in you for the MRIs.
Yeah,
and when you read those symptoms, you're like, those symptoms are so similar to MS symptoms. So how many people are out there with MS symptoms who are experiencing side effects of the drug they're taking, or they're experiencing side effects of the gadolinium that they're having maybe once or twice a year for their MRIs? And who's going to answer that question?
It's the same with vaccines. Like the vaccine side, one of the side effects is actually the disease. It's the same with chemotherapy. Right. The side effects of chemotherapy is cancer. The same with all these things. It's almost like you couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up. And so with these, For Matt, when you got this when you were 9, so you got diagnosed when you were 19.
Yeah.
Was there what did you notice happening before that? What was the telltale signs? How long before that did you think you actually probably had it, or what was going on?
Well, that's a good question. Looking back, I did have some weird symptoms that went all the way back to when I was in elementary school, at grade 6. Weird, just kind of weird, unexplainable things. but not that would go away, that weren't really long lasting. But then when I had my, I guess, big exacerbation in 1995, that's when, there were some really objective symptoms I couldn't ignore. And that included numbness and hypersensitivity and leg spasms and then ultimately reflex issues and eye coordination issues, which I wasn't aware of those last two until I actually went to the doctor. They were able to recognize those things. And then with the MRI and then the number of lesions in my brain and spine.
Yeah, the lesions in your brain and spine. The eye one is one that I only just come across. One of my friends has actually got something similar, and they were testing him for MS for that. Losing depth perception in his eyes, not like being able to know what's going on. It's for someone who was a sportsman as well. It's very you lose your identity, I suppose. It's something that can be. I mean, you were a sportsman at the time, weren't you?
Yeah.
You play American football.
Unfortunately, still am.
You still am, yeah, still are.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. So, but when you got diagnosed, how long were you doing the traditional approach, and how much did you notice that increase your symptoms, I should say? How long did it take you to start going down this path? Like, when did you start noticing? What made you search for this?
Yeah, well, I started the steroids. So, I mean, back then there weren't a lot of MS medications at that time. I mean, the interferon was just coming on, right? I think it was just being tested back then, or their experiments. But anyhow, the steroids, to be honest, they did take out the leg spasticity that would occur.
Right.
But there were a number of symptoms that kept happening, and that again, I'm lucky. My dad was a research scientist. He is a research scientist, and he just started going at it right away. Both my parents, my mom. I remember even my mom, like, weirdly, I think I remember driving home from the doctor and her saying something like, "Diet has to have something to do with this." Like,
was you 19 then? Yeah.
Yeah, I think even driving home from the hospital, she said that in the car. I recall that. And you know what's weird, man? What's weird, and I haven't told a lot of people this. A month before my attack, I had this huge sense that I had to change my diet. It's the weirdest, but that is the truth. Like, this overwhelming feeling that my diet had to shift, right? And then bang. So anyhow, then my dad gets into it. He and then within 6 weeks, within a month, we had started, because there was already, Dr. Swank, his stuff was out there already, and Judy Graham, who's in the film. That book was already out there. I don't know if my dad read that one yet, but he definitely into the Roy Swank work.
She's the English lady, is she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we started, and then away we went.
So what was your diet like before? Was you in quite good shape physically?
Yeah, I was, but I was young. It was awful. Like, it was just awful diet. Like, just pizza, just you name it. Took so much pop. Just awful. High fat, high gluten, high dairy, high salt, high sugar. You make a list of what I don't eat now. Yeah. That was particularly my diet. Right.
Yeah. And so, like, processed, refined crap. Like, so it's just like. And did you notice instant? I mean, how long did it take before you to find the proper sort of diet? Did you notice straight away that when you took gluten out, like, you noticed you felt better already, or was it like something that happened over a period of time?
For me, it was gradual. Yeah, it was gradual. I did have, the drug, the prednisone or the steroids I did. It was not good for me, right? Yeah. So I really struggled with depression, and like it just had a bad adverse effect. And so then when I went off that, and then the diet started, it was more of a slow progress. I would say probably 4 months before I really kind of recognized a life change, just a change. Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Swank and so the lady you said a minute ago, I've actually got her name written down, but I've got it in another book. What was her name again? She had a book out already.
Yeah, Judy Graham.
Judy Graham. So was their approaches, were they quite similar, what they were saying?
They weren't identical, but they definitely focused on diet, right? Like that, and they were really low fat, I believe, was the theme there. Right. The elimination of fat, saturated fats. And then again, we just kind of, the way I see it is like a ladder. It's like, the diet my dad came up with was just, more restrictive, but took out more potential foods that could be a problem.
Mm-hmm. So So have you, since you've got, I want to go into your diet and I actually want to go into the research and stuff, but since you have been on your diet, have you had any symptoms? You said you're completely symptom free.
No, I did have symptoms. I think a little bit way back in like 2000, but I had a virus. That makes sense. I had a little bit of a virus come up, and they went away.
But sick. So you haven't had any symptoms, any leg spasms, anything like that for how many years?
No. Oh wow, it's like, it's 23 years now. Like I'm good now.
That's awesome, my man. So fucking proud of you. Well done. That's awesome. It's a long time to be clean as well.
Well, you see the other side of what MS can do to people and how it can ravage the body. I mean, it's scary stuff. So it's like, that stuff's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I sit down at the table.
When you see your film, if anyone hasn't watched Living Proof, I highly recommend you go and do that, and you can see some of the people and you see some of the symptoms and what they are. If you're not familiar with MS, it's not something to be mucked around with. So for people out there, what is your diet now? What are so you've got MS Hope out there, you've got the diet online. What are the things that you eliminate? What are the things you eat?
Right. Yes, so the broad strokes are elimination of dairy, elimination of gluten, beans and soy, low fat, low sugar, low salt. Those are the big ones, right? That's really if you can eliminate those, that's kind of those key ones. And then after that, we highly recommend people get an allergy test to see if their food is bothering them. Cool. Right? If there's something else out there that could be individual to the person, because you said it, each body is somewhat different. So you go, you knock out the big ones that we know could possibly cause inflammation. Then you refine it a bit with ones that could be problematic to the individual. And then sometimes you're left with a relatively short list of what you can eat, but it's actually not that bad.
No.
Right? I mean, it's actually, in today's world, I mean, back then it was like you were on the moon if you said you were gluten-free, dairy-free. Like now it's somewhat fashionable, right? There's a lot of products out there. You go to a restaurant and you actually see it on the menu. You don't have to, sometimes you barely have to ask, which is it's been fantastic for me.
When it's associated with people real food, generally, like if you go and have steak and potatoes, for example, and vegetables, it's just potatoes are potatoes, steak is steak, broccoli is broccoli. They're not all these other things mixed in. So what I'd say there, so for people out, because obviously this is something that we talk about all the time, on the podcast, because we are soy free. I'm caffeine free as well. I think caffeine's got a lot to answer for. Read a book called Caffeine Blues. Caffeine Blues. Have a little read of it. So caffeine, soy. See, with dairy though, pasteurized, homogenized, dairy free. Yes, I do very well on raw dairy. I don't know if you've noticed that anything like that for MS. Have you tried raw dairy for MS?
No, we have no dairy at all.
No dairy at all. Okay, and for salt, is that? I mean, you talk about table salt, you talk about all salt. Would it be the same for Celtic sea salt? Would it be the same for Himalayan rock salt, or is it just broad spectrum salt?
Yeah, I think right now we're pretty broad spectrum.
Okay.
Keeping salt intake fairly low.
Right, and obviously sugar. I can understand sugar. Have you noticed? Okay, what salt do you use, for example?
I hardly use any salt. Maybe there's a little bit of table salt.
With table salt, Matt, you're better than that. Come on, Himalayan rock salt. It's got 60.
Well, here's the thing. It's like what you'll learn in this, and I don't know how long you've been in this game, is that there are very few people who can handle this type of discipline. Mm-hmm. Like very few, right? That is one of the biggest issues I come across. So the thing is, okay, you got to go, well, how can I make this realistic for people? Like I'm open to your advice and your thoughts to even narrow it, because I'm that kind of guy. But how do you get it to people?
I wouldn't say narrow, because salt, and for most people, it's like an essential nutrient. As in, the salt I'm talking about is got 60 different elements in it. It comes from the land. It's Himalayan rock salt or Celtic sea salt. You don't need a lot of it. You don't need a lot of it because it's quite powerful. Table salt. I don't know if you know a guy called Paul Chek. You know Paul Chek at all?
No.
He's Paul Chek's like a holistic godfather. He's been around for years. He's got the Chek Institute in San Diego, but recently, people in the natural health world have known about him for years, but he's done a few podcasts recently, and he's blown up even more because he's been saying this stuff for mean, he was talking about gut health 35 years ago, and people laughed at him,
Right.
and now those doctors are talking about it. But he talks about the four white devils: table salt, white sugar, white flour, and pasteurized dairy. He says when people get those four out, a lot of the time they see a big difference. So that's the only reason I was saying just for table salt. So that's the things you take out. What are the things? I mean, to be honest with you, have you heard of Jordan Peterson? I mean, he's a Canadian. I'm sure you've heard of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, I'm a pretty massive fan of Jordan Peterson on many. Have nothing to do with health, but other philosophical.
Yeah, 100%. But that's discipline as well. Him and his daughter, steak, water, salt.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of his diet. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's for everyone, but his daughter had a lot of autoimmune conditions like ankle replacements, knee replacements, hip replacements at like young age, massive depression, eating meat, beef, water, and salt, and everything's gone. And it's amazing what diet can do.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, for people out there, what would your normal? I mean, so what are the things? Vegetables, meats are okay. Root vegetables okay.
Yeah, so it's in moderation, right? For me, I mean, again, if you look at a typical day, I have and that's the thing. I talk about volume too. I just don't have little portions sometimes, right? Like I have is that like the magic bullet you're drinking from there right now?
That's it's a magic bullet. It's just water in there actually, but that's what I've got.
That's what my breakfast looks like. That thing. So I've got this massive. I've got the pro one, right?
Yeah.
And I make a huge fruit smoothie, like huge,
mm-hmm.
and with a heaping tablespoon, a heaping teaspoon of turmeric.
Right, we just lost you there. We just lost you there. Turmeric, and what was the other one?
Fruit, just huge smoothie, right? Yeah. Just all fruit, and then it's just sometimes a little bit of coconut water in it, all that kind of thing, and then that's a massive consumption of that,
mm-hmm.
and then off I go on my day.
Yeah, and lunch would be. What would lunch be?
Lunch sometimes a salad, and then salmon or some sort of chicken or something else like that,
mm-hmm.
and then maybe some cashews or something in the afternoon. But normally I don't need it. And then dinner is the same. It's just sometimes rice with dinner, so a little bit of a carb, but
So your diet is basically what we do. I don't even eat breakfast. I give myself 12 to 16 hours. I'd eat about 1 and eat about 9 o'clock. I don't snack generally. People always snacking. Right. I have maybe a couple of teas, herbal teas, etc. But very much on par. People have almost been duped into thinking we need all this huge amount of food, and I'm always like the healthiest people I talk to eat possibly the least. And say least, right. not the least, but they have nutrient dense food, so they don't need as much, and they're full for quite a long period of time, probably 5-6 hours, and then they maybe eat again. And for example, you look the picture of health. Like you do. You're in great shape, good skin, hair. And so for people out there listening to, I always say this, it's amazing some of the people that others listen to for health. And I'm like, they look terrible.
I hear you. It's true. I get it. I was even and I don't want to speak pejoratively to this. I don't want this to sound mean, but I was on a panel recently with a doctor, and before we were talking, he told me when we were talking about where we went to school and all that kind of thing. He's like, I went to school, much way before you, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, when did you go? It turns out I'm almost 7 years older than the guy. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I got a website with this diet, right? You should check it out. For optimal health, but you see that, right? You look at healthcare professionals who don't even know this information, right? Don't even live it, and you're just like, well, guys, there's more out there.
Oh, huge! How old are you then, Matt?
I'm 42 now.
You're 42. And I know people that live this life that are 42. People say, how old are you? 26. I'm 33. I go out with a lot of my friends who are younger, and they all think we're the same age. And I'm like, boys, you need to sharpen up. You need to be doing something wrong.
True. It's the truth. I can see it in you, right? I can actually look at the person and go, okay, are you on the diet, or you're living the life, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I've kind of stalled out looks wise. I think we are. I think in my early, say 35.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. That's how it looked.
Yeah.
And then physically, I think my physique. I'd say I said probably in my late 20s.
Yeah. No, you can see you're in good shape. I mean, this is the thing as well. You're in good shape, and so. So a part of that, you said earlier that they told you not to exercise.
They didn't tell. I don't think they told me that that was the advice for other people.
Right.
And I remember my mother's a nurse, and she would, we kind of struggled back and forth, her and I, at the beginning, because that was the advice that she knew, right?
Right. And so what would you say to people now with MS? Is exercise a big part of the recovery or keeping healthy? Yeah,
I believe that to be true. I believe that. This is, we look at these issues that surround blood flow. Another huge part of this puzzle people need to think about is blood flow, right? Getting your blood flowing, circulation, all those types of things. And, you look at other things like Dr. Jelinek in Australia, vigorous exercise, like getting that. I haven't had my workout yet this morning, but I will at one point go have one. But that's a huge component to this too.
So you work out every day?
Almost every day, yeah.
Yeah, and what are you doing? Are you lifting weights, or are you running, or are you doing a bit of both?
Yes, I try to do 25 minutes of cardio and then 10 to 15 minutes of weights, and that's it. And some days maybe a little less even. If I can just break a sweat, that's kind of the goal, right?
It's amazing when you're doing this, when you're eating well and you're doing that, how little sometimes you need to do to get a great result. Like, it's in 25 minutes, 10
Sorry,
minutes.
I missed that.
I said it's amazing when you get into this and your diet is on point, how little you need to do just to keep your physique looking very good. It's in 35 minutes a day.
Well, the thing is, and it's funny you bring that up, because I've got a brother who looks almost identical to me. Okay, and this guy, he's on a very similar diet to me now, right? But he doesn't work out. He doesn't even exercise, as a guy, and we almost look identical physically.
Yeah,
so
it's good. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Where you go that whole, is it 90% diet, 10% exercise? It's hard to know, right? But the diet is just key.
Yeah, I think it's like the diet and then your genetics. Some people some people got great genetics. They look phenomenal. Like, they can eat the diet and they're just going to look really good. Other people need the diet and the training. But I know what you mean. Even when someone's not working out, if they're eating well, they look really good. Like, they look good. And so when you went into this and you started to realise that diet and lifestyle was a huge factor in keeping people healthy for MS, you went and you started to give talks around Canada?
Well, I did. I guess I spoke out a little bit in my early 20s, which is quite a while, almost 20 years ago now. And then, a couple things. Number one, I guess one of the things is when you're 5 years, 10 years, people don't necessarily take you that seriously. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is, selfishly, I'll just be honest. I wanted to go live my life. Mm-hmm. I work in the entertainment industry, and I wanted that. I didn't want this to be my brand, and so I more or less disappeared off the scene for a long time, right? A long time, and I went and married and had a life. Mm-hmm. Like most people who we do encounter who go on the diet and all of a sudden they just go live life. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until I, started to approach my 40s when I had some things go on that I wanted to start. I got really frustrated. I literally got angry.
What were they?
Yeah, I showed up at this one, just watching how the whole industry, the whole medical ecosystem around multiple sclerosis was just refusing to step up and talk about and help people with alternative therapies. Not even alternative therapies. I don't like that word alternative, like actual therapies that do something. And I just got frustrated, and, I've got a background in marketing and all that kind of thing. And I just jumped in. I'm like, I got to get this out there.
Mm-hmm. So you're by nature, you've always been into making films or
yeah, that's right. Yeah, for a little boy.
So this is awesome. So you can, and that's what led you to making Living Proof then, that frustration.
Well, that made MS Hope.
Right.
That made MS Hope.
Right.
And then I knew MS Hope would do it. It was the day we launched. It went global, bang.
Really?
Without any marketing. We had those Google Maps you can watch where it's hitting around the world. You can actually watch real time. I remember sitting in my office watching it pinging. And the globe was spinning. We're like, whoa, this is actually moving, right? And then when the MS Society of Canada sent me that lawsuit letter, the potential lawsuit letter, I'm a filmmaker. I'm like, we got to roll on this, because this is what you just said. I couldn't write this. Right?
So for people out there that haven't seen the film, I mean, there's a great episode, there's a great bit in it as well when you're giving a speech and you're like, anyone from the MS Society here?
Yeah.
No, not one of them. Like, I've reserved them front seats. None of them want to be here.
Yeah.
It's like they just don't want to know. What letter did they? So what happened in the lead up to that letter? Did you know it was coming, and what did it say?
I didn't know it was coming, but so we got I got a letter just kind of in my inbox, and it just said, was this? They wanted me to revise it was about the branding of the website.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to revise it, and they're going to. I can't remember exactly. They're going to take legal action against me if I didn't do it. And then I brought the website down and fixed it.
And that was it.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. And
they didn't have anything to say about what you were saying.
No, not directly, right? But that was the. I mean, I can't speak to their motivations or why they went, but I'm certainly not the only person out there who has a website that their letters have the same color.
Mm.
Right.
So it was like an underhanded way of saying. So the more and more you did this, you and your father. I mean, your father researching this, and you went around and spoke. Why? I mean, have you had any other letters off them saying what you're doing, or why are they continuing to ignore your message and your research?
Well, the thing is now, I believe now on the MS Society website in Canada, at least, there are links to diet things.
Right.
So that has changed. So that is good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is nice to see that had that effect. But outside of that, there's been almost zero contact. Now I know they were invited to be on a panel with me in Toronto last year, and they released a statement that said that there were factual errors in my film. And this is not the first time these type of things, and I've requested to understand what those are, and I don't get a response. But I do want to be clear, I think there are, because I think in the film I claim that, we claim that there's about 15% of their money goes to research, and I think the truth is it's about 13%.
Right, so it's even worse than you thought. Yeah.
Technically, they have me there.
Yeah. So this is the same with all these charities and societies. I always say to people, they're not the solution, they're part of the problem. I walk past a cancer research person and I'm like, you're part of the problem. I don't want to be horrible to you. If you've probably got a massive heart and you're probably trying to do it for the right reasons. But since we declared the war on cancer in whenever it was, and 1 in 8 people had it, now 1 in 1 or 1 in 2 have got it, and where's all this money going? It's the same. How much did you say? How much a year did they
I can't remember. Was it around 200 million?
It's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was 173 or something. I can't. To be honest, it's been a while since I've looked at it. So
yeah, and people don't understand. It's like, where's this money going?
Well, the thing is this. Here's my, because I've had to, as a human being, get past these frustrations, because I don't think holding on to those that anger, unless you're using anger and fear to push you forward and quickly. I just kind of and I try to tell this to my mom. I say, just accept that these societies more or less are arms of pharmaceutical companies. And then once you kind of accept it, you just let it go. You're like, well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They're trying their best to get these things out, and it's like, well, but if that's not the road you want to go down, then, don't go down that road.
Yeah.
But the awareness, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. I appreciate you doing stuff like this.
It's the awareness. That's all I say to people, just to understand. Don't get angry. There's no point getting angry about it. But it's just what gives you the frustration is all the people with massive hearts giving their hard-earned money to things that are never going to make a difference, looking for a magic bullet approach that they don't. And it's like, that's the thing that's frustrating. But once you understand it, it's just once you're aware of it, you're fine, and you don't give the money to them, and you do other things. But it's just getting people aware of that.
Yeah, and also too, it's there's a huge cognitive dissonance between a disease and what is actually going on for most people. So you show up at the MS, say bike race or run, and you go to A&W here in Canada, which is a fast food, and you buy a root beer or something to support it. But what you don't see is the people who are just absolutely suffering in long-term care facilities who can't even feed themselves. That's not brought out on stage for people to look at the actual truth of what this disease does to young people and old people, and all sorts of things. It's not just old; it's this huge demographic of human beings who are suffering. right? And this is not some game, and that's why I try to tell people. I mean, this is horrific what these diseases do to people, and it's horror. And if people looked at what it was and actually could see it with their own eyes, I mean, I think we'd have a protest in the street to what's going on. But again, it's getting that image out there.
100%. That's the thing. It says, well, people go and buy, they go and buy these pink ribbon foods for like cancers or whatever. They're all the ones that cause cancer. Funny enough, they're sponsored by KFC and whatever else, and it's just like, okay, it's almost like the irony. It's hilarious. But 100%, people don't really see. That's one of the things that your film does do. It does go into a few different people's lives, and it does show people what it can be like living with MS. And I think those pictures, those scenes are very, very powerful for people to understand what can actually happen for people. So have you had any backlash from either the medical community or from people that are just complete non-believers in your approach?
Nothing from pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
And outside of that statement from the MS Society in Canada.
Just lost you there, Matt.
The national US.
Just lost you there.
They encourage people not to watch.
So I just lost you there, Matt. Say that again.
Yeah. So nothing from the pharmaceutical industry outside. There was one statement that came. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
One statement that came from the MS Society of Canada. I know there was a letter that went out internally in the US one, encouraging their members not to watch it.
Really?
Yeah. But outside of that, no. I mean, again, the patient population is continuing to suffer. So there's no one really watching the film going, hey, I did all these drugs and it's 15 years and I'm doing fantastic. But put a call out for that person to present themselves. We haven't heard from them.
Mm.
So this is the other thing, right? You'd think that there'd be a huge, like at least 30% of people on my website being like, no, this is BS, but there's just not.
Yeah. And so it's like,
it's just, you read the comments, it's more or less, yeah, or thanks, or, you'd think even 10% or 5%.
Yeah, it's just, I wonder if they had any sort of like, people saying, oh, you're a quack and this is all nonsense. I just wonder, but it's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. That was the risk, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, you have a journalistic mind, and then what we did is that's why the caliber of the medical professionals in there are so high.
Mm-hmm. And
we actually shot with far more doctors, to be honest, but anyone who we thought would be maybe polarizing, you know what I mean? I just eliminated them because I didn't want any of that.
So what sort of thing would be polarizing?
I mean, if you look at say the CCSVI or the blood flow, that's a very polarizing issue.
Right.
That's a polarizing issue. People have a strong stance on that. So it's we didn't put Dr. Zamboni in the film. We're like, you know what? He's too high profile in this, and people have an opinion right away. Let's go to Stanford. Let's go see what Stanford has to say about this. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's, so we took it that way.
Right. So you're saying, but in your opinion, you agree with Dr. Zamboni's approach?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with his approach. How do you mean?
He's what he was saying about blood flow being critical.
Yes, I agree with that. Blood flow is really important in this puzzle.
Right. Do you do things like saunas, etc.? Infrared saunas, different saunas?
No, not actively, but
you don't. No?
I do like it though.
Yeah, cool. No, I didn't know. It's just a good thing. I like to mean you're in Canada as well, just detoxifying the body. So when this happened, but first of all, the research that inspired you the most, was it Judy Graham? Because I know you went over there and you spoke to her. You went over there and spoke to her, and she said that she's had a few symptoms, but she hasn't been as strict. Is that what she? That was the story? How? Yeah. And so how long has she been sort of following this diet? But she was still in a lot better state than a lot of other people who had been with it a long time, right?
Yeah. I think it's 40 plus years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't think she's been anywhere near as strict as me.
No. But she was still walking.
Yeah, still walking. Yeah, I mean, she needed a little bit of assistance, I think, for long distances, but she's still doing, much better than most people at that stage.
Right. And so, people that you've seen follow your approach to diet and lifestyle, what are some of the results that you've seen or you've heard of?
Well, I mean, it's very similar results to me.
What's that?
Right? I mean, it's similar results to me. And the thing is this, I mean, one frustration we have is that people go on the diet and lifestyle and we don't necessarily hear from them ever again. And then all of a sudden they'll show up at a conference and you're like, hey, where have you been? Like, I'm fine, right? And I try to put them on my Facebook. Like, if you go deep into my Facebook, when they write, I post it, or I put their photo, or I try my best to be like, hey, look, it's not just me. There's other people, right? And that's one thing that I want to be. That's challenging when you go into the media world, because they'll be like, well, it's just you. You're just a one-off, that type of thing, right? And so that's where I really try to go, no, it's not just me. It's all these people. Yeah. And again, I can look at your face and like tell almost right away if you're on it or not.
When you said that, because people will say that, it's they call it they say correlation isn't causation. They say it's anecdotal because it's just one person. It's like no. But that would be great if you could get all of them to come. But now, as you said, people go and live their lives. But have you seen anyone that's been, for example, and this is not me trying to think the word, trying to make some big production of this, or trying to give people false hope. Have you seen anyone who's been wheelchair bound start to walk again?
Well, I mean, I guess it's Dr. Walls would be she's in the film, right? To be truthful, I didn't see her in the wheelchair prior to that. I mean, we've got the photographs, all that kind of thing. But I haven't personally seen like that dramatic. I mean, obviously there's stories that get written to me that are like this, or I was in a walker, or this type of thing happen, but I haven't personally seen that outside of their anecdote.
But you've had stories of people saying they've come. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's Dr. Walls. That's the end of the film. It's the most dramatic. Like, we have a doctor who went. Yeah. And
that's pretty big for people to hear, because, it's being able to stop symptoms is one thing. Being able to slowly reverse or get your health back is something that is huge, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think that, again, as you continue to do your work in this, one thing that we need to, as a team out there who are trying to tackle these issues through the approaches we're doing, we really need to be looking at food addiction.
Right.
I get it. It is a problem for people it's huge, and it doesn't really get addressed, especially in North America. And I think that, that's it's its own issue, right? Where I see people like getting them to stick to this strict program is so hard. I mean, I estimate between 3 to 5% who hear the message actually do it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, unless you've been through, for myself, when I was going through a healing crisis, what I do. I was ill when I was younger. When you are in that pain, you'll do anything to get out of it. Once you start to, so a lot of people, I do a lot of clients, once they start to get better, they forget what pain they were in, and they can start to do some naughty things, not naughty things, but things that are going to, for example, eat processed foods, maybe have a beer, etc. And they're okay because the constitution's stronger and they haven't got MS, and they can get away with a little bit more than they can get outside the lines. But for someone with MS, just having a beer or a bar of chocolate or some of the things that are in there, would that trigger you straight away?
I mean, again, I can't speak to that, but I mean, I highly recommend. Like, why would you do that? Like, I just look at it, I'm like, if we see it as this food is poisoning us in a way, like, why would you have a little bit of cyanide? Like why risk it? Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. And it's like, I know I hear this thing where it's like, well, 80%, 20%. Like, well, why? What are you talking about? And like, what study ever proved that? Right? Like, why do we?
What it is, I think, as well, Matt, it's the social aspect, right? Lots of people, when they're for social things, they go out and they have a drink, or they go out and they have a meal with everyone, right? And it's like, if you don't drink, if you don't eat certain things, it's not a big problem, because you all sit around the table and you can not eat like things. You can say, no, I'm going to have this and have that or whatever. That's not a problem. A lot of people's society, like not having a drink, it can be like black sheep. You're looking to. So, for example, you said about food addiction. I don't know if you've done much research into, like, you probably have, into the brain, for example. One of the things, what gets fired together gets wired together. So when we're young, we start to cry. one of the things mum does is give her the breast, and so straight away we equate that sugary substance with comfort. So people get down in life, and there's lots of that, lots of depressions going up from the world we're in today, and they seek comfort food, things that are going to make them feel better short term. And also the other part of the brain, the mammalian part, is about hierarchy and not being extradited from the herd. And so if you have had all these friends all your life and all of a sudden you're not out drinking with them and doing stuff, you don't see them anymore, it can be a real sort of like, you lose your identity, you can be real people for mental health issues. It can be probably a really hard thing to overcome because they know they have to probably make new friends and have a new life.
Yeah. Okay, but here's my perspective, man. Like, look, and I talk about this kind of stuff, and I get it. Right? But like, look, if you become sick, okay, I don't care what necessarily what the diagnosis is. This is a wake up call to say, look, what you're doing in your life isn't working. You've come this far, but guess what? It didn't work. And that's not just what you eat. It's what you're doing. It's how you're engaging in society. It's your relationships. It's what you're doing. Like, it's a holistic approach to your existence. And it should be a wake up call to be like, wait a minute, like this equation, like what I thought was going to work, didn't. So I try to get people to think, okay, it's not just this. Like, you got to start doing other stuff too. And that's maybe giving back. It's maybe becoming more part of your community. It's rethinking your social structures and like who you're hanging out with and what you're doing and what those activities are. Right? It's just like there's a lot of layers to well-being. And again, it's that's where it's this magic bullet concept where I'm like, look, it's not a cure, it's not a magic bullet. It's like it's one piece of like trying to regain your health, mentally, physically, and spiritually. There's three parts to you that you got to take care of, and if those get out of balance, out of whack, you got to figure it out. And this is where I get frustrated. Where I'm like, when people go to the doctor, right? You go to your physician, and you get quickly either pathologized or you get stuck in a box, like a very narrow box of like illness, instead of being told, you're a perfect person, created perfect. You're at a box right now. We got some levers we got to adjust. Let's figure it out together. And then day by day, you incrementally get better. Does that make sense?
100. I've tried to. I pushed the right buttons. That's what I'm saying, because I want you to say something like that. Because it's 100%. It's a journey as well, and it's as much an art as it is a science when it comes to certain things and getting your balance back. But the problem with going to see a doctor is they have about 7 minutes at most to see you, and all they can do is give you pills. They're not going to say, for example, my consultations last about an hour to start with, minimum generally. Probably, if you deal with people, probably the same. They haven't got an hour. And they generally don't say, well, how are you sleeping? How much exercise are you doing? How's your relationships with yourself and with your loved ones? What you eat. I mean, all these things, they don't do that. And so this is, as you said, mind, body, and soul, and it's all part of it, and it's just very, very important.
Right. Agreed. And the other thing too with our system, and I think it's probably similar in the UK, and it's a global problem right now, is you are the center of that well-being, like you. So unless you are going to fix it, help is not on the way. And that's the thing. It's if you think you're going to show up and someone's just going to like write you a script and like it's going to be okay, it's not going to happen. And like once the individual realizes that they are the center of the creation of their world, that they can fix it. It's just going to take work, and and you got to go out there and you got to just start. You got to start making the changes to rebuild that body and rebuild that self. But it's possible, and you can do it.
100%. And you said it's looking at things differently. You've got to give your body the right circumstances to heal, and then you've got to look at things different. As you said, it's completely that. It is hard, or you say it's hard. It's just a different way of looking at things. It's a different approach. It's looking at life differently. It's coming at, as you said before. You want to keep on doing all the things you're doing that are causing the illness, and you're going to take a pill. You think it's going to stop it. So no, it might mask some symptoms for a short period of time until you need a bigger dose or until you need more pills. But it's not getting to the underlying root cause. Long term, it's poisoning the body. Have a look at the side effects. It's not going to work. And also, you said there, you are the centre. Whereas a lot of people want to give their responsibility of their health to someone else.
No. Yeah.
And
no. Yeah, and again, that's in all three: body, spirit, mind, and then people need to be aware of that. Like you are in control of all three of those things, and if you work, and it's up to you to work on them, to work on all three of those things on a daily basis, right? You can't just phone it in, It's not just gonna that quick fix mentality has got to it's got to shift, I think, for people if they want great long-term outcomes. And again, it's about education. It's about doing something like this podcast you're doing, things like that. But it's also about that new awareness for people, right? And that's. And I try to get people to. I say wake up. I know it's cliche, but I'm like, you got to wake up, like, and you can do it right now. That's the thing too. That's what people got to understand. Like, you can do it like right now. Like, you can. That's what I try to get people. I'm like, you can do it like right. You're listening to this. Change right now, and like you have a different reality. You don't have to wait for it to come, or it doesn't take time. You can do it right now.
Oh yeah, prevention's worth so much more than cure. So 100% you can do it right now. And as you said there, I always say on my programs to my clients said the nutrition is massive, but the mental and emotional work is just as important. So journaling, we do affirmations, meditations, discovery walks, all things like that. And I'm like, this is just as important, because if your mental emotional state is not right, and your physical is not right, then your physical affects your mental and emotional, and it goes round and round in circles. So taking that responsibility, as you said, it's like, what's that famous quote? It's like bathing. You should do it daily, because you need to. Things can change, especially in today's world. There's so much noise, right? There's so much social media. Everything's going on. The people are never almost disconnected from their phone or from something like that.
Yeah, this is obviously a huge thing. It's a totally different issue, but I say to people, look, especially you hear this, I'm anxious or I'm depressed. You hear that a lot these days, right? And I'm usually like, okay, look, then why don't you hop in the car with me and let's go drive downtown and start feeding people and see how you feel after that. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how people start to shift. And what you're getting at is like, there's two things. Yes, you are the center, but two, get outside yourself. Like, start helping other people. Like, start reaching out. Like, yeah, if you're down, fine, I get it. It's not good. But like, why not try to go help somebody else and see how you feel? And that could be as simple as just like literally driving downtown, getting out of your car and buying some food for someone and like listen to like how they got into this position they got in.
I want 100%. I want to, listen to what you said there. This guy called Sean Croxton. Do you know Sean Croxton? Have you heard of him before?
No.
He's got a podcast called Underground Wellness years ago, and now he's got one called Quote of the Day. I've just pressed on it. 1 second. He's got what was the? I want to have this quote exactly what you just said. Yeah, which is, if you think money can't buy happiness, you're not spending it right. Okay, and
it's true.
Right, but what he says in it, it's not about him spending it on himself. He said they did tests all over the world, from wealthy countries to poor countries, and they gave people different amounts of money, and they said, you've got £200, you can spend it on yourself, okay? You got £200, you can spend it on someone else. And they found everywhere the people that spent it on someone else felt a lot better than the ones that felt it on themselves.
I mean, you have no idea, man. Like, I try to get people to think this way, but it is like it is so hard to get people to cross that line, right? But once you do, like, it'll change your life. Like, it will, you know what I mean? Like, I talk about diet and all this kind of stuff, but like, you start giving back to people, you start like try to change other people's lives. You watch, and this gets into a much deeper concept. I go deep on this one, right? I get into quantum physics and like biophotons, and I'm like, okay, this stuff is people got to know.
Go for it. Go for it.
Like, that's a whole other perspective, right? Where it's just like, look, there's a deeper reality beyond this materialist understanding we have what's going on here. It's like, if you think evolution and like we're all this selfish gene, if you think that's the end of the road, that you're just a survival machine, like, you're missing it. Like, that'll take you to a point. No question these things happen. No question there's biological realities. No questions there's biological truths happening. But you've got to go deeper. Like, there's more going on here than just that. Like, you're not just an ape here trying to survive, and like that. We're beyond that now, right? And I think if you push yourself beyond this materialist understanding and you start looking life as more as observations versus a material, like it's things, you start getting engaged in a very different way, right? I think when you start to think this way, you will go out into the world and you will start seeing that the people around you are pieces of you. Therefore, you've got to help them. Because if you don't help them, you're not helping yourself in a weird, selfish way. And then when you do start to engage in the world that way and you see people starting to change, you will change. And suddenly you start creating a better world that you live in, not just for you, but for others around you. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's something like we're all part of. Paul Chek talks about this as well. He said, God is everyone and everything. So,
Yes.
so it's like you don't understand. We think we're all part of something. We're all part of the same. Everything is. He's the good. He's the bad. Would you feel so good? Would you feel so happy if you didn't have the down? Sometimes it's all part of it. But when you start to look outside yourself and realize this is our human experience, there's people out there that talk about. When you talk to some of these people in consciousness, they talk about how some of us are old souls that have been here many times, and some of us are new souls. But when people are on our journey, generally, are put here to try and awaken other people. And we can sort of understand some of this because we've sort of been here before, and we sort of understand this as a human experience. Whereas people that are not, some people are very matter of fact, and they think that was all woo woo. But luckily, even science now, quantum physics is smashed out of the water. The metaphysical, we've even started to realise this is all very, very real, and energy, and the way we are, and 100%, we're all part of this. We're all part. It's all good. Me and you going out and buying organic food, maybe growing our own food here. But if we don't wake up everyone else, all the soil is going to go. The air is going to be polluted as well.
Yeah, you're right. But what people have to understand when you go down, what I try to communicate is, look, what's in your observation, like what you can see with your eyes, is what God is creating for you to deal with. It's not a coincidence. If you're walking down the street and there's someone looking for money, you give it to them. Or you ask them what they need. God has created that experience for you at that time to wake you up. You. And then suddenly you've woken up another life. The problem is we think we walk through our days, most people just think it's all random or it's chaos. It's not. And that's when you have that awakening, you go, okay, you stop, and all of a sudden your life starts to shift. Right? But people need, like what we're talking about, like people need to understand that this will change their lives. Right? It's a perspective shift that will heal, right? This awareness, this awakeness, this ability to reach out to others, right? But it's, again, if you think that you're just a selfish gene, like an ape, like for consumption, that will feed the current system, and I assure you, you will die.
Yeah, and you'll die without experiencing much. 100%. When it's like people say, if you come from a scarcity point of view, I want this, it's for me, etc. When you start to give, or when you start to like put yourself out there and give value, it's amazing what happens. It's amazing what opens up for you in life and in general. Just helping people, As you said, that's a really good point. If you see someone come down the street and they're asking for money, then sometimes you wonder if giving them money is going to be the best option for that person. Sometimes, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, though. Yeah,
that's not up to you, right? You give when someone asks you. You give, and obviously, I don't know how deep I obviously evangelize the gospel of Jesus Christ quite, because I go, look, have people read those 4 books? Because what we're talking about is in those 4 books. Problem is, most people don't want to take the time to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and if they have, they've skimmed it. Or they heard about it, and if you actually read those books, there's the manual to what we're discussing here, right? And it's in a form that people can hopefully understand. So people want to talk about coincidences in their life, like, or they're like, that wasn't a coincidence, right? That had to happen. Normally when it's good stuff. So when a positive thing happened, that was meant to be. Well, when negative things happen too, those were meant to be too. It's just how you deal.
Yeah, it's all growth potential, right?
Yes, and you're getting this. Sorry, those are my dogs. And you get, but the thing is, you're being given these opportunities to do this on a daily basis. So that's like why when you come in, I get an email from you. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm in. I got a chance to help somebody and like do some stuff and get some word out. But then I got to focus on that, right? And understand that it's not a coincidence you're trying to get a hold of me. That's what I'm meant to do that day.
Yeah. 100%, and it's like you can, 100%. Everything for a reason. It sounds very vague and it sounds very cliche, but there is some truth behind it. Things happen to you to you have you talk about God. I know you're Christian Catholic. I'm actually Roman Catholic, but I'm not.
I'm not a Christian.
You're not. What are you?
I follow Christ.
You follow Christ. Okay. I've been had communion, etc. I'm Roman Catholic, but I'm not practicing Catholic. I'm much more into spirituality in the universe, and I've read lots of books and lots of different religions, and they all mean, at the heart of them, they're all saying the same thing generally. But the universe, as you say, God's putting it in your life, or the universe is putting it in there. For example, I see nature as God. I see it all as So So when you're putting it in your,
we should do another show on this. Bottom line is, I was an ardent atheist, right? Like I would, I have like in my library, I've got all the Edward O. Wilson and Richard Dawkins, and I would, just persecute people who were religious for years, academically. In my master's work, I had like, biological determinism. Like this was like right? Until I started studying quantum mechanics. And then once I started studying quantum mechanics, Jesus Christ revealed himself to me, and I was like, what the? Like, no way. That truly happened in my life. And then again, and that's why when we go deep on this type of stuff, I'm like, look, please just read those 4 books and change the way you maybe even taught this information. Because if what I believe to be true of those 4 books, the things you're saying, all these other ideas, all these other thoughts, I should have no issue wanting to talk about them deeply and open my mind and heart to them. I just follow Christ into it, which is the truth.
That's one of the things that Jordan Peterson talks about, isn't it? He says, tell the truth.
Yes. Jordan Peterson, I think he's trying to say what I'm saying, but the problem is once you say you're a Christian, you're put in a box, especially in our world, where you're like, well, you must think this. So it's like, well, I'm a Christian, but I actually don't believe much past the book of John. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what are you talking about? Right? And then you're like, oh, you want to talk about Pauline Christianity? I can get into that too, but that's like a really, hard debate, which is a lot of emotions around this kind of stuff.
This because it's become Christian religion, same as some of the diet, it's become like religion. Like people are so lost that they need to feel stuck to a tribe that they won't even open their mind to possibilities. Some of the things that they're being taught are incorrect, or, for example, it's what happens is someone can follow someone and they can really like what they're saying, then that person will have one opinion they don't agree with, and they just disregard everything they've ever said before. It's like, no, right. Pick and choose the things that you think are correct in what you know and what you search for the truth. You don't have to just completely disregard everything because one thing stands out to you that you don't agree with. So I think that's, for someone, it's like, certain religions, people take it. I think they take it because they don't want to think for themselves sometimes. It's like, do you just want to blindly follow a book, or do you want to actually have the ability to question those things and see what works for you?
Yeah, and I think when we get into these issues, when I talk about it, it's like, okay, I don't consider myself religious. I follow a roadmap which is laid out by Jesus Christ. I just follow the manual. And you know what? It's not easy because you have to help people. You have to do all this stuff that, it's not. But at the same time, it is easy. So it's like, you just have to treat others like you treat yourself. Like, that's it. And once you do that, you don't judge. It forces you to engage in the world, where it's like when you walk down the street, you're looking for opportunities to help people, and God will create them for you. Like, it's amazing, really. I mean, the number of people who I stop, who are, say, in a wheelchair, who just go by me in a walker, I just stop. And I'm like, hey, do you have MS, or what do you have? How hard is it? And the person will engage with you. But I think that we live in this world where people have just fallen asleep. Like, they walk down the street not realizing that they're given all these opportunities to engage in the world.
Engagement has definitely dropped. I'm quite guilty of it myself, because if I'm walking down, I'll be listening to a podcast, I'll be trying to learn all the time, and sometimes I should have my earphones out so I can talk to people. But it's because when you're in the sort of self-development world, or when you run your own business, you try and take every moment that, even if you're driving your car, you're trying to learn, rather than just listen to something silly. And if you're walking, it's nice time to learn. But 100% engagement is huge.
Here's a piece of advice I'll give you. Just to try this. Just try this for a month. Okay? Just give you a month. try to feed every single person on the street you see.
Feed.
Just for a month. So it's like if you're in a big city, get your backpack and fill it with granola bars. But stop to each person. And you call me in a month, you tell me what happened.
Yeah, all right.
You tell me what happened in a month.
I'm going to go and do that. Granola bars.
I can assure you right now there's going to be some stuff you're going to be like, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, I know. Like once you get out there, because again, if you look from a quantum perspective, these people aren't, I mean, they're people, but they're pieces of you. So like, as you heal them, you heal you. Like you are together, you're working together to build a better life.
It's weird what you're saying, because I think so far today as well that there's this whole like thing where people are almost, I don't know if it's all part of their underlying schemers or what they're trying to do, try to break us up as people, individualize us so much. Like people are almost afraid to talk to others now in case they might get like, you know, people are some people are so offended by nonsense, and you're like, can I do that? I don't know if that's sort of why people are. I mean, I don't know. When you talk to normal people, I was in Canada and America in the summer, and everyone was just brilliant. I was talking to everyone. No one was like different. It's weird. And you look at the TV or you look at what they try and tell you. It's like, oh, this is going on. Everything's disastrous. And you're like, how much of that is real bullshit? Because when I go and talk to people, everyone are great. They're just people. But you listen to the mainstream media, and people are actually like worried. Some of the people are even worried to share their opinion with people in case it offends someone. And so, you know, this is real. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to try and, if I come up to someone, feed someone or do whatever. But it's it'll be. I reckon it'll be quite an exciting day actually.
And then I'm going to send you an article on quantum physics, the quantum mechanics that you should really check out, because it's like once you start going down that road, man, like it's going to change your world. Like it'll change your life. Well,
for business as well, was that for people always worried about money, etc. All that, like bring abundance in. Yeah,
but the thing is this, like remember, money is like you can't worship God and money at the same time.
Right.
So the thing is, you know, if you start to worship God and you start to do God's work, the money will come.
Right.
And that's the promise of Scripture. Like, you know, you're going to get, if you do this stuff, if you do this, don't worry, you'll get what you need.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, and it will happen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I'd say this, people, you know, obviously want to put me in a box of just like, oh, you're that kind of guy. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, I came through here through quantum mechanics. If I just do this stuff, it's like the diet. But you got to do it.
So quantum mechanics, you're talking about the vibrations you put out into the world is what comes back to you.
Well, just the concept that like things, it's getting beneath those layers of like you just keep going down, right? It's like DNA, molecules, quarks, whatever. You just keep going down until you realize that there's nothing there. So then you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm perceiving things. So what is this? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you realize that we're just energy. It's just an energy at the bottom. Like at the bottom of all this, it's an energy that we all are. We all are of that. Are you with me?
Yeah. I'm just listening. Yeah, I didn't know if you're gonna go something else, but I was just gonna say it's amazing how some people. It's people's like it's like talking to our audience will be like. Yeah, 100%. And because the people who are new to this will be like, what the hell are they on about? Or like, this is all crackery. Yeah. So you have to be a certain level of understanding. You've got to be open to these things. You've got to actually understand that. You know, because it's very easy for people to just get up, put on daytime TV, eat crap food, want to buy clothes and walk around, or today's Instagram world, all women out there have been told they're not enough, so they're all getting like Botox and lip fillers and veneers and fake boobs and all to look a certain way, but no one's doing the work on the inside. No one's actually understanding what's going on. So people actually understand that you've got to look at things from a different perspective. You've got to be able to, and to be really honest with you, if you want looking good and dressing well and stuff, that's all part of the human experience. Go and do it, enjoy it, but just understand that that's a surface level thing, and there's lots going on underneath. But it's just getting people, you said, awake. You say, don't have to say that's pretty cliche, but to actually understand what's going on.
Well, there's what I see going on in the world right now. To your point, okay, there's like 3 layers to what people are going through right now. You've got the avatar self in a way, which is what you're describing, how we look, and we have like a model of how our physical needs to look. You have a spiritual self that's occurring, which is like on the inside, where your thoughts and stuff are coming from. And then you have your biological self. We're living in a world where the biological self is being questioned. So you have animal urges, but you're being told all these thoughts maybe you have are just wrong. Does that make sense? Like, so we get this, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, where it's like we're just ignoring biological realities. Like we're saying they're not real, right? We're questioning them. And then you've got this avatar self, which is like a construction that we're actively creating by how we shave and like we put what clothes we buy. And so it's almost like our own little personal creation. And then you've got this spiritual self, and the focus on the avatar self has just become the majority of what we're doing, how we think and how we're perceiving the world. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we're just focused on this illusion of what we should be and how we should look and how we should act, versus like what's going on spiritually, which made me feel very uncomfortable with the world, and what's going on biologically, which is causing all these internal turmoils in us. So we have these two parts of ourselves, with the truth of what we're going through is just not allowed to be discussed in most circles. So you've got all these people are just so depressed, anxious, getting on opioids. It's manifesting in alcoholism and addiction, because people are just trying to repress all this stuff. They need these truth they need to talk about. So it's like, how can we put people in a situation where we can start unearthing? And this is where I think why Jordan Peterson is becoming so popular, because he's talking about this stuff.
He also talks about it in a way that completely, he's so intellectual. He says anything that you want to say, and he says it so well, and he's so well read that he can just debunk all the nonsense that the other people come out with. So, like, and when you're talking about that, like, but to suppressing biological urges, whatever you suppress is going to come back tenfold, and that's why I think he's come out. All them on the left snowflakes, as I like to call them, because look, some things are just like men and men, women and women. We are different. There's no like sexes are the same. Yes, look, we're all humans, so we're more similar than we are different. But you ever live with a woman being a man, like, or a woman as a man? Like, we're very different. Like, there's different things, that women are far more emotional, men are far more logical. It's yin and yang. It's the sun and the moon. They're all part of the same system, but they are different. They have different ways of going about things, and all this Me Too movement and going too far the other way, what has allowed someone like Jordan Peterson to come on a big stage, because he was like, enough, and then boom, he's come out and his following is massive, and now people are understanding and having the ability to actually speak about these things at a far more intelligent level, because they've got someone out there who's actually saying all these things, making sense, and he's delivering what he's saying in such an intelligent way, and in a way that makes sense to a lot of men. I think a lot of men out there as well are a bit lost, because they're like, what can I do? I've got all these urges and I've been told they're wrong. It's like, men, it's the same with women though as well. Like, a lot of women now, you got to want more. It's like, not all women when you say want more, what do you mean by wanting more? Like, a career? Some women are like, and nurturers, the one thing they want to do is have a family and bring up their kids. There's nothing wrong with either one, but it's like, people are, it seems like we've gone backwards. It's like we've tried to be so progressive that we become regressive. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's also just, again, the awareness of, say, biological urges or whatever. I think that, there's a lot of focus on certain of them, but things like rage, things like jealousy, things like envy, these are also things that, like, both men and women are experiencing on a daily basis, like daily, right? And so I think, I know I do to a certain extent. Right, so it's like, I'm not happy all the time, like, by no means. And I think that, again, that's that sense of like, this happy level of life we're all leading versus the realities of what we're experiencing. Are just, again, and I know I get like, I don't want to get sound too preachy, but I really believe that if we don't restore the gospel of Christ, like, we're in big trouble, and that people need to reopen their minds to what that means, and actually just re-educate themselves of what that is. And it's amazing how many intelligent, well-read people I sit across from, and I say, look, have you actually read the gospel, the 4 books? No. Like, I hear this so consistently. I'm like, well, then how do you have an opinion on something? Right? We live in this world where it's just like, again, people just, from my perspective, and whether it be the MS, whether it be this conversation we're having, people just don't seem to want to go deep. The majority.
You know what it is with religion. It's because a lot of religion. See, people see. This is the thing. People see religion. People like atheists or others see it as pockets of brilliance or pockets of greatness amongst a sea of nonsense. As in, lots of things that keep people from actually experiencing life, or that keeps it safe. But it's like, for example, parting the Red Sea. It's like there's nonsense, but they don't understand that these are all stories that are meant to have a meaning behind them. They take them literally. They're not meant to take them literally, and that's what I'm trying to say. People don't understand that same as the Quran and all the other books. You're not meant to take them. These are stories, and we've lost our stories, and people are so. Is that right? Is that wrong? They want to make sure that science says it. It's like, you don't understand that there is a reason we had like myths or stories like Snow White and the Seven. All these things, Disney, they've all got deeper meaning behind them, because the best way we should do that as when we're in tribal ways, is to tell stories to understand what is meant to go on. But people don't understand that, and when they hear religion, they think of preachers and stuff like that. Whereas there's a great book that I always like to talk to people about and say to read, and that's Conversations with God. Have you read that?
I remember that. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, there's three of them. It's a long time ago, but like it gets people to understand, as you said before, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It gets people to see it as not this person in the sky casting judgment.
No.
But this is the thing.
It's God is in you.
Yeah. But when people say preaching, people think of like someone standing there saying, "And God says this, and you shall not," and it's like, no, we need to get a step away from that and understand. You say God is within you. You are everything. You are a divine being.
Yes, right. But it's right in there. It's right in the gospel. It's like it's right there. It says that.
So but it's like trying to get someone to read. People are not going to read the Quran, and people are just not going to be like, because they see it as. Yeah, and obviously that because of the church and stuff, it gets a lot of bad press. There's lots going on, but it's like people understanding what. It's like having an open mind to it.
It's what you're saying is like it's that concept where it's like that I can't remember the poem where people are feeling the elephant and they feel the truth and they think they're holding onto a snake.
Say that again. What was it?
There's some famous poem I can't recall exactly.
Oh, Donald Trump did it, didn't he? That snake where you said.
No, it's the concept of like you say there's an elephant in front of you, but all you feel is the trunk, so you think it's a snake.
Oh right, yeah. It depends on what bit you're touching. The tail, yeah.
And I think what I tell people, I say, look, Jesus Christ defines himself as the truth. Okay, so then therefore, if you follow the truth, you should feel comfortable walking into any religious organization or anything because you're just looking for truth. And if there's not truth, then don't accept it. But if it's true, then it's part of the Spirit will lead you into all truth, not just some, all. So get out there and go experience the world and learn as much as you can and just keep pursuing truth and keep asking the next question. Right? That's the mission, I think. That's the journey.
That's 100% the journey. And that's why at the heart of it, all religion should be coming from a place of love. It should be coming from a place of growth and understanding and deeper things. And it's just... we have lost that as a society. This is why the emergence of things like yoga, I think, are becoming bigger, because people are craving some sort of spirituality, some sort of deeper understanding. Because one of the things, even with like heart disease and anxiety and things, meditation's phenomenal for all these. And actually having that time for themselves and getting to understand yourself more, rather than like, what's that? I think it's a famous quote. I think it's by Hawthorne. He says, trying to be. Let me see. Actually, I've got it here. I've actually got it. It's one of my favourite quotes because. Let me have a quick look. No, I didn't want to get it wrong, but maybe to be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. I think it's a powerful quote, because everyone is almost trying to be like everyone else rather than just be themselves as well, and understand that you're on a journey and that journey is unique to you, and you're going to get get your lessons revealed to you at the times you need them, and you'll keep on getting these lessons until you learn them.
I agree. I totally agree, and that you got to keep going. And I think that one piece, and if we're going to wrap this kind of concept up, is if people could just, when I'm looking at you, like even right now, I'm like, I don't know why I've created you in my brain, but you are a piece of me. And like, I don't know why I did it, and like, it's weird, and it's like, it's phenomenal, and it's brilliant, and it's amazing, and so then I got to listen, and I got to figure out, okay, well, why have I created this? Like, why have you created me?
Yeah.
And then together we grow, we get better.
Well, Matt, why did I come across your film? And it's like, what was that? And I come across, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I could have easily not bought it. I could have easily just clicked away, but I didn't. I watched it, and then, I was like, I need to get this guy on my show. I need to have him. I need to speak to him. And why did I keep on persisting? I could have easily just gone, no. But you keep on, because I know that it's weird. It's like I was being told, like, I need to speak to this guy. I need to get his message out. And it's something that I felt inside. This is the other thing. People need to listen to their gut, their intuition, which I think people have lost. Because
you want truth. You want truth, and you want to put truth into the world. Like for me, it's that simple. Where like you're pursuing truth, and like truth comes across, and you want to do, and that truth can come in different forms. Truth can come from like how we speak to each other, how we write to each other, how we treat each other, how we treat others. Like there are things that are just, there's truths. And I think if we go to that simple truth, treat others like you treat yourself, wow, watch your life change. Awesome, man. Matt, I'm gonna. We've been on for a long time, so I'm gonna let you. Go, my man. We should do this again. Yeah, we'll definitely do this again. What I was gonna say, just stay there for 1 second. But thank you very much. All right. So, guys and girls, that was Matt Embry of Living Proof and mshope.com. I hope that really hit home. We went into a few other things there at the end as well, which is really interesting. I want to get Matt back on to talk about that. And when it comes to quantum physics, so it's very hard to explain, and I'm no expert on it, and I'm going to be doing a lot more reading around it. But I know and it's not even quantum physics, but I know what people mean when they say, look, when you start doing things, all in one frequency, when you start living that life, start giving and treating people like you would yourself, and just be open to conversations. Lots of time, I'm really bad for it as well. Constantly got my headphones in, listening to stuff because I want to learn, and sometimes I miss what's going on right in front of me. So it's nice to take your headphones off. The other day I was going for a run, and I just took my headphones off because I wanted to be around nature. You can learn all the time, but sometimes it's really important to keep those, and to keep that human element. It's moving more and more as we're going man and machine, and it's something we just don't want to lose. It's so important, and if you can, try and help people out as much as you can. See someone struggling with bags across the road, or they're struggling moving something, or whatever it could be, go and help them. Me and my friend went out just after Christmas, actually in between Christmas and New Year's. I think it was about 28th of December. We made a decision to go out, and we bought lots of fruit, a couple of mince pies, a few other things, and we went around the streets of London, and we just started meeting homeless people, giving them food and whatever we could. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm a martyr or anything, because I'm not. It's just about the people we met and the interesting stories they had, and and just talking and meeting people. It was just something that was awesome. And I don't know, there was a quote I heard the other day, and it was, if money doesn't make you happy, you're not spending it right. And I think I put that in the show as well. We mentioned it in the show. And so just think about that, people are the happiest, but the ones that spend their money on other people. And it's the same with your time. If you help others, it's why, people always talk about, oh, people aren't going to do anything if they're not paid. It's like, well, if they're not going to work hard if they're not paid. Well, volunteers are some of the most hardest working people in the world, and they don't get paid. So when you go out and you're doing stuff for people, it's phenomenal for your health, it's giving back, and it's amazing what doors and avenues it can open for you, is because it's the way the world works. So, that's something that we want you to take away from this, as well as anyone you've got with who's got MS. Please share this interview with them. Please get them to watch Living Proof. Go to www.livingproof.com as well, and also go to mshope.com. It's amazing that the MS societies, none of them want to spread this news. It's like they're same as cancer. It's like they want to keep all the money for themselves, try and find a magic bullet approach that will never work, because that's not how you get health. You can't make health through a pill or a potion or an injection. It comes from within. It comes by Mother Nature's laws. So
yeah, it's just phenomenal. Follow Matt Embry if you can on Facebook, and follow his site, and I'll definitely be getting him back on. He's someone it's almost like having an instant friend. When we spoke, it was just like, yeah, I feel his energy. He's someone I would like to be around more, and maybe even try and do a film with him and just get around and interview some certain people. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that interview with people, and really do spread the message of what people can do with diet. Especially when it comes to MS and other illnesses. As always, people, heading over to www.reviveyourself.co for any articles, and also we've got our supplements there in the shop and different things like the Aries Tech electromagnetic frequency blockers and the Aquitaire water filtration system, etc. Maybe getting more things as well. And if you are struggling with a health issue and you would like some one-to-one help, program structure, support and accountability, then send me an email at ryan@reviveyourself.co. We can book you in for a free consultation and we can see if and how we can help you. Otherwise, hope you've enjoyed that, guys and girls. Hope you're having a good first week of January and it's all going strong moving forward. Do that task for me on your values and your goals, and if not, your nightmare, but mainly it's get your values and your goals, and then put those values and goals somewhere you can see them every single day so you can remember what they are and keep them in your vision. And let's have a great year and a great month and a great week. So as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.